Starting over in a new city always sounds fun. For a while, it feels like you can do anything. And when you're sitting on your couch looking at apartments online, or scrolling through neighborhood tours, or watching somebody's extremely confident top 10 reasons to move here video, it's pretty easy to imagine a future version of yourself. But then you actually move, and it turns out almost none of those things tell you what your life will look like. My family and I just moved to Portland after spending 12 years in Seattle, and while I wouldn't claim to have Seattle completely figured out, I at least felt like I understood the rules of the game. I knew where things were. I knew what different neighborhoods felt like, and I knew what inconveniences were worth tolerating and which ones weren't. I had accumulated enough little pieces of local knowledge that I could get around the city without really thinking about it anymore. Then we moved, and now I'm back to wandering around, staring at navigation and making wrong turns and trying to figure out where the best hardware store is. When you move, everyone talks about the things that you're gaining. A new city, new opportunities, a fresh start. What nobody really talks about is what happens when you realize you've also stepped away from a potential future life. And I think that's what I've been wrestling with lately. Not Portland exactly, something else, something that I've had kind of a hard time putting into words. I've been thinking a lot about Frank Gehry. Yes, the architect, which is admittedly a strange thing to think about while walking around Portland, but hear me out, because for most of his career, he was a successful architect doing successful architect things, designing buildings, running a practice, building a reputation, and then, like somewhere around the age of 48, he remodeled a house for himself, and all of the weird private experiments that he'd been collecting for years suddenly came together into something that felt distinctly his. Not because he became a different architect. If anything, he became more himself. And I'm not trying to be Frank Gehry or anything, but I think that it illustrates something that I've been stuck on. Because before we moved, I could see the future pretty clearly. I'd spent 12 years building a life in Seattle. We had friends and community, routines at work, and all of that was really good. There wasn't some dramatic crisis and nothing was falling apart, but I could see where the next 10 years were headed. And the strange thing is that I wasn't sure that I wanted to simply continue the trajectory that I was already on. Not because it was bad, just because it felt predetermined. People often say that success creates opportunities, but it also creates momentum, and momentum can turn into obligation if you're not paying attention. I don't think we moved to Portland to reinvent ourselves. Honestly, we moved because we wanted to be closer to family, because we wanted a different pace of life, and because Portland seemed like a place where that version of life might be possible. But somewhere underneath all of those practical reasons was another realization. I'm 38, which sounds old when you're 22 and impossibly young when you're 70. And for the first time in a while, I started realizing that there is still enough time left for surprises and time to learn new things and time to build something that doesn't look exactly like the thing that I spent the last decade building. So when I say that I'm starting over in Portland, I don't really mean starting over from scratch or anything. I think that I mean taking everything I've done so far and seeing if it leads somewhere that I couldn't have predicted. Or maybe that's what I'm hoping for. I'm still figuring that part out.
Oh, that is good. You just don't like fancy coffee.
Yeah, I don't. What was the cold brew you got recently? Somewhere in Portland.
That tasted like a brewed coffee over ice to me.
They just have a low brow taste. Whoa.
That looks good.
It smells good. So nice to see so many people out on a weekday. Even sitting outside in a morning. I'm really jealous. I mean, that's what we're doing. I'm not jealous.
We are literally doing that.
Some cute places.
After spending months thinking about all of this, about how time always marches forward, the thing that has given us some sense of belonging has been working to claim our corner here. house last night, clearing out the bedroom, filling holes and patching everything. I took a little bit of the trim molding off and sanded the wall, and then got a first coat of paint on. Today's going to be the really big push. I'm going to try and redo all the trim molding and do a little bit of shopping and get most of the work done today. Also, I need to paint the ceiling, which I hate doing. In the middle of this renovation, I realized this new bedroom is helping us feel settled. You know, it just feels lived in and claimed. It feels like evidence that we're actually here. I moved assuming that eventually Portland would reveal itself to me, that if I explored enough neighborhoods and found enough favorite places and spent enough afternoons wandering around, I'd eventually unlock some deeper understanding of the city. But I don't think that's how it works. I think it's a process of accumulation, because nobody wakes up one morning and suddenly feels at home somewhere. It seems to happen through repetition and a collection of experiences. You know, you paint a room, you learn your neighbor's name, you keep buying groceries from the same place because it's easier than figuring out a new one. You walk the same route enough times that you stop thinking about where you're going and start noticing everything around you. And then 2 years later, you look around and realize that all of those completely forgettable little moments have somehow become your life. And maybe that's what starting over actually is. It's not reinventing yourself, not becoming somebody completely different, just creating enough room in your life to keep becoming who you already are. It's been a couple weeks since I've wrapped up this renovation, and, you know, for the most part, the room's adorable. I love it. So does Seely. But I put up this wallpaper. This seam was absolutely perfect. And now look at that. It's like the panels like shrunk or something. And now you can see every single seam, and it's pretty big. I'm very disappointed about that. Anyways, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.